Hey all, welcome to my channel. I know I haven't posted in a while, but in reality is there a reason to post? Quite honestly, more so to the point where, um, let's be honest, the Giants aren't that great of a team. There was no purpose in regards to posting the last 2 weeks because we knew they were going to suck, they were going to lose. It was a given. The fact that they couldn't beat the lowly Panthers, and the fact that they couldn't beat the Falcons, who had Penix as like the starting QB, because they couldn't beat these rookie quarterbacks practically, it showed that there was no purpose because like if they were going to lose the game, there was no purpose. But now it comes down to this. I mean, we know Drew Lock is not the quarterback at all. There's nothing to do. He's not even a backup QB. That's the sad part where we're at. It shows that he's not a good backup QB. Similar to Tommy DeVito, at least he's a decent backup QB, but not a good backup QB. He's not like a Brock Purdy. I mean, honestly, to be quite honest, is this a case where it's the system itself that doesn't work for these two guys, or the fact that the system doesn't work for essentially what we would call for Drew Lock because it didn't work in Denver, it didn't work in Seattle, it didn't work here? Would Drew Lock thrive in San Francisco or Minnesota? It's only time will tell because like look at Sam Darnold. He was a journeyman. He didn't really do well until he finally got to Minnesota under that system because that system was almost similar to the same system as San Francisco. So that's probably the reason why he's thriving. But it's hard to tell. Like honestly, let's see if Drew Lock were to go to essentially San Francisco. It's kind of curious to see how that would work out from that aspect. But for the Giants, it's a case of this. What's going to happen to Dayball? I mean, honestly, if they do have the worst record and they have the number one draft pick, I have a feeling Mara's going to keep him because the fact that the coach and the GM shown have been like it's been a carousel where like five coaches in like the last 5 years or something like that. That shows really bad instability. Mara might want to keep a little patience. Maybe he thinks Dable is still good enough. The fact that the first year he came on board, the Giants went to the playoffs, advanced to the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that he stands like, hey, look, we got to keep him. But the reality is, it's a give or take. It's probably a 50-50 in this situation. But I'm leaning towards more that Mara will keep him and Schoen and like let them go with next year and give them next year to see what they can do, or the year after at least, depending on what it is. I like who they draft. Now the question comes down to is will the Giants have the number one draft pick as of right now on 12/26, the day after Christmas? Yes, they do. But if they beat the Indianapolis Colts, they most likely will be number three, I believe. Now, if they lose and if Las Vegas loses as well too, and if I recall, beside Las Vegas, I forgot who else is practically dead last. Give me a second. I gotta take a look and see. Um, but the only question comes down to is this: basically, if the Giants lose this game as well as the remaining teams also lose themselves as well too, the question comes down to is for Philadelphia, if Detroit wins on Sunday, it's possible that maybe like Philadelphia has no reason to like play their starters on the following game against the Giants. It's possible that they may tank that game, meaning as a Philadelphia organization, Eagles organization, they might think basically, you know what, we don't want the Giants to build their future now, where they get the number one draft pick to the point where like they might want to use that number one draft pick and build some capital, basically draft cap, meaning using it to trade, just like what the Chicago Bears did. And let's be honest, Caleb Williams, forgive me, Caleb Williams is really good. Let's be honest, it doesn't. We thought, okay, he's not that great, but as time progressed, you're seeing that he's pretty good. It's just a matter of bad management, on bad coaching, basically, that's causing them to lose. And they have a pretty good wide receiver as well too, and they have a good core basically to build off of. This is a Bear team that's probably going to be pretty much around. So, I'm sorry, the Titans as well as the Patriots. So, if the Giants were to lose, the Patriots were to lose, the Raiders were to lose, the Titans were to lose, as well as the Jaguars and Browns. I'm sorry, the Browns too. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, if all six were to lose as well, and they all were like basically 3-13 next week, and the Giants were to lose, and they're 2-14. The real question comes down to this: are those remaining five teams, if they were to lose that final game as well too, and the Giants were to win, the Giants go from the number one draft pick basically down to I think the sixth pick, or even the 7th pick for that matter. Depending, because like also the other aspect is like granted the Bears and Panthers have kind of low end as well too. Um, actually, yeah. From that aspect, it comes down to the fact that maybe the Philadelphia Eagles just basically tank that game, and so let the Giants, rather than having the number one draft pick or number one draft pick, they're going to possibly 5 or 6 basically from that, maybe 7 depending. But in any case, for me as a Giants fan, looking at this draft class right now, honestly, I don't think there's any quarterback in this draft class that's a number one pick. Uh, Quite honestly, that kid from Miami, no way. That kid from Ohio State, not a chance. Quite honestly, this is a case where I think the Giants just have to be patient and either do 2 things basically. Either one, maybe sign Kirk Cousins. Is he the right person to fit the Giants system? Maybe. I don't know. It all depends because at least Cousins still is good, decent enough. You're looking, I was like, well, look what's going on with the Falcons after his injury. Yes, but remember, in the beginning, he was doing really well, and the Falcons were pretty much in the playoff hunt. So it's possible, and we know the Falcons are going to cut him. The Falcons have no choice but to cut him. The Giants probably could pick him up. I mean, it's possible the Patriots or Raiders, for that matter, could pick him up, or the Titans, or even the Browns, for that matter. But I think the Browns are probably going to keep Winston on that point. With the Panthers, I mean, they're going to keep him as well too. The Bears, they have Caleb Williams. There's no purpose to it as well. The Saints, it all depends with what they do with what's his face, and honestly, I don't think they're going to drop him. So, with Kirk Cousins being released, the Giants possibly should go and try to pick him up. If they can pick him up, I think he can be your stopgap. He can be definitely your stopgap between the next year and the following year. So, like for the 2026 draft class and the 2027 draft class, that's what I think you got to look for. Because in the 2027 draft class, I think that's going to be stacked with a bunch of QBs. More specifically, you're going to have the Manning kid, Arch Manning's kid, not Archie Manning, but Arch Manning's kid. Where I mean, with Texas, he looked decent, but it'll be interesting to see how he progresses, and we could find out in next year how well Manning does because he'll be full timer at that point. It'll be interesting to see how he does at that point. And the same thing is like there's that kid that's that's going into Washington State, Oregon as well too. It'll be interesting how they work out as from that aspect. But in any case, I think this is a case where like the Giants should not try and draft a quarterback in the first round with that first pick. If they do get the first round pick, or even the seventh pick overall in the first round, I think the Giants basically should more so try to build some draft capital. Now, if they have the number one pick, they definitely should trade. If anyone's that desperate enough for one of these 2 quarterbacks, the Giants trade, basically just trade on back, and get their number one draft pick, like the way the Bears did basically with the Panthers. When the Panthers wanted Bryce Young, they gave him a lot, specifically their first round pick, and they got Bryce Young. As a result, with the Bears being patient, they saw full well what was going on. Caleb Williams is available. Boom, they chose him at that point, and that turned out to be the right thing. Honestly, if they didn't go Caleb Williams, they would have gotten Jaden Daniels. So it was one of those 2 basically. So the Giants, I think they just have to be careful. I think they need to be very patient. We as Giants fans have to be patient because it's not going to happen next year, honestly. Yes, they have a good core in the defensive end, but I think they're maybe 3 players away, specifically 2 in the secondary. They just have to build that secondary properly, and 1 more in the defensive lineman as a defensive lineman or linebacker as well. And I think that helps them out considerably. On the offensive end, basically, yeah, outside of a quarterback, they need a tight end, and they also need their offensive tackles at that point because those are the 3 areas that they have to focus on in the offensive side of things. Because running back wise, as well as wide receiver core wise, I mean, honestly, Neighbors actually is someone to build off of as well as the running back. It's more so to the point where like they just need to pick up a couple more free agents and they should be good. I think they should be good, but they need that QB, and I think Kirk Cousins could be that stopgap. It kind of reminds you to a point like they could use Kirk Cousins as like the way the Giants did with Kerry Collins. Now, granted, when Manning was drafted, they cut Collins, but it was right for the Giants to do that at that point because you got Kurt Warner, and he was pretty good. I have a feeling you get Kirk Cousins, he could probably help lead the team into the playoffs, possibly, depending on who they pick up in free agency and in the draft, outside of a quarterback. If they were to get Kirk Cousins, I think they could potentially make a playoff run. Will they get into the playoffs? It's strongly possible, depending on how it works out. Because, I think I have a feeling the Commanders, it's kind of a fluke thing, as well as the Vikings. Let's be honest, the Vikings, their defense is what's getting them in there. Darnell, I think he's just a product of the system itself more than anything else. If you put in another, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Daniel Jones works under this system as well too. Because let's be honest, the kid that they drafted, McCarthy, he's not a QB for the Minnesota Vikings. Quite honestly, I think Daniel Jones might be that quarterback. I think they're going to use him more than Darnell and see what happens. And I think Darnell, using this year, it's going to be a case where he can definitely use it to get that max salary again. Probably, I have a feeling he's probably going to be signed by either the Browns or not the Jaguars, either the Browns or possibly the Raiders. It's possible. We'll have to wait and see. Basically, the sad part is will Antonio Pierce be the Raiders head coach? I highly doubt it. Honestly, he hasn't gotten those players to play to their full capabilities. So it's the same thing with Dable. I think Dable lost the respect of his team unless he could prove somehow, some way, with this Indiana game as well as the Philadelphia game. Now, granted, the Philadelphia Eagles, if they do tag the game, I don't think it means a difference at that point. If they adjudge to win or to lose, because Dable, if he were to get them to win because of the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles were tanking, it's not going to. I don't know how that works, but in any case, let me know your thoughts. What do you think will happen? Do you think the Giants will get the number one? Do you think the Giants, if they get the number one pick, should they draft a QB from one of these schools, or should they try to trade for some draft capital? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I do read all my comments and I do respond to them when they warrant a response. Also, I do ask if you like this video, please hit the like button. It'd be great to know so that I can actually discuss them more. On this content, I go based on what the likes are and I focus on that content. Also, the other aspect is as well too. If you haven't subscribed, please, if you could hit the subscribe button, that'd be great. I don't think you need to be notified. If you want to be notified, that'd be great. But quite honestly, I'll leave it at that. Again, let me know your comments. And I'm trying to build my channel. Basically, I need to focus on. I know I need to focus on a little bit more. It's just that this is kind of a side thing for me, basically, and it's one of those things where I'd love to discuss and whatnot. But outside of that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and of course, always unrehearsed. Until next time.